Hey guys, I'm Kent Tilley. Welcome to Stand Up Economist. And on my other channel at K4, I was talking about the problem we're having with Canadians being in too much debt. And so I kind of wanted to talk about a few ideas that I have in a four-part sort of video where we'll talk about four ideas I have for Canadians to take some of that money back from the banks. And the first one that I'm going to talk to today is one that seems, really good to me because this is my real area of expertise. And so I'm just going to give an example of, how they're overcharging us, what we can do to not be overcharged, and how that isn't going to affect job creation in any way. And that's just legitimately going to put more money back in our economy and back into the pockets of Canadians. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. But if you think that I'm totally out to lunch, then let me know, and we can revamp or just delete your comment because we don't like it. So what I want to do today, and something that I've been talking about for a number of years, is fees on your investment accounts and how they're way too high. Canada has basically the highest investment fees in the developed world, and there are now options to not pay that much in fees. However, Canadians are sort of tied at the hip to our banks, and so they're still the number one place where Canadians go to get their investment advice, even though they're paying way more than they should. So today I'm going to pick on Royal Bank because they have the largest mutual fund in the country. And the largest mutual fund in the country is called RBC Select Balanced Portfolio. Not saying there's anything wrong with this portfolio, but inside of that portfolio at RBC, they have $47 billion worth of assets. This is just average Canadians' money. Anybody that's in this fund is generally an average Canadian. They're not high net worth. They're not working with a broker at Dominion Securities. They're just your average investor that's getting, probably not great advice at the advisor level in the bank, unless you have a really good advisor. But a lot of the new advisors are just making a small salary, and the banks are actually eating more profit that I'm going to explain off of this. Now, that fund in particular has an MER of 1.91%. So what that means, if they have $47 billion in that fund, they're charging 1.95%. Each year, they're charging Canadians $916 million in fees. $916 million in fees off of one fund. So almost $1 billion of our money is going into this fund. That's great. Let's break down what that looks like, because a lot of people say, well, they're creating jobs, so that's what's great about it, is blah, 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 and we don't want to get rid of jobs. But I know for a fact that we could completely find a way for independent advisors like myself to still make money, still hire staff, still pay people well, still invest in investments that are just as good or better than this, and save you money. It exists. There's tons of independent advisors out there that are starting to pull the plugs, knowing that they don't like their clients paying this much money, and they can do it a better way. So if we break that 1.95% down into sort of how it looks, it would roughly be like this. About 1% would go to the advisor and like the branch. So that might be, your local bank branch. They should be getting about 1% of this. Your advisor at the bank's probably making a bad salary, but roughly that's what the investment firm kind of makes, or like the practice would make off of the investments there, depending on your asset level. And the fund is probably charging about 0.2%, meaning that the bank's profits on that fund alone are 0.75%, which means that $352 million worth of your money is going into the bank's profits every single year, but that could be cut out completely without getting rid of any jobs. Because you could just have new firms like mine being created where we can save you that much money in fees and put all of that money back into the Canadian economy, back into the stocks and bonds that are owned within that fund, and also back into your pocket. So there's more money being invested into these other companies, which should promote more growth because there's more money in there, plus there's more money in your actual pocket. $352 million out of one fund. Now we know that all of these banks have, hundreds of funds. This is just the biggest one. So do that all across the board and imagine how much money this is. Now, I'm going to do the math here and say, okay, what's $352 million at 4% growth over 10 years back into the economy, back into your actual RSPs, TFSAs, whatever else? That's an extra $4.7 billion growing, compounding in 10 years. Imagine what that looks like after 20, 30 years. And it's as simple as that. They are gouging for doing nothing. Gouging. There's a million better options out there where you can actually save money. And if we talked about this en masse and made these changes as a country, that is billions of dollars every year, not going into the banks, but back into our pockets and companies' pockets so that they can actually grow. Because the banks certainly aren't growing by hiring more staff every year, even though they're making $352 million off of one fund. Imagine my firm made $3 million off one fund, I'd have a way bigger staff. But I don't make that much money because we're allowing you to save that. And every other little guy would do that. But we can't charge what they charge because that's unfair. Our profit margins shouldn't be as high as theirs, but they don't have to disclose to us how much they're making off of each customer. This could be an average of like $10,000 in everybody in Canada's RSP that's in that fund in 10 years if you started with $100,000 in that fund today. It's a lot of money. Very helpful for us. I think it's very simple. We need to stop thinking about the banks as being the place where we want to invest in their high-priced funds, where they're just taking money from us, not putting it back into our pockets, not putting it back into the growth of their company or all of the other companies in this country. Simple as that. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Cheers.